All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're jumping straight into a journey through one of the most dramatic, mythological, and honestly, glorious histories in all of global sports. Listen, even if you aren't a massive football fan, you are absolutely going to appreciate this epic story. It's packed with brilliant tacticians, agonizing curses, legendary heroes, and a nation whose entire heartbeat is basically synchronized with the bounce of a ball. We're talking about the history of the Argentina men's national team, famously known as La Albiceleste, or the White and Sky Blue. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand Argentina, you have to understand that football down there is way more than just a game. As the sports writer Jonathan Wilson so perfectly put it, they intellectualize the sport. It's this profound, foundational pillar of their national identity. They debate the tactics for hours, they elevate their star players to literal demigod status, and they feel every single victory and defeat on a deeply, deeply emotional level. And there's a very good reason for that immense passion. 23. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is the record number of official international titles held by the Argentina men's national team. It's just a staggering figure that immediately grounds us in their historic prestige. When we're talking about La Albiceleste, we are literally talking about the single most successful men's national team in the history of the sport. But, as you'll see, getting to that number 23, it was anything but easy.
Act 1. The Early Kings and the Long Winter.
So Argentina's official story kicks off right here, on July 20, 1902, in Montevideo. And what an entrance it was. In the very first official international match for both nations, Argentina delivered this absolute masterclass, an emphatic 6-0 victory over Uruguay. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't just a win, it was the spark that ignited a really intense, century-long footballing rivalry between these two South American neighbors.
Building on that momentum, Argentina pretty much instantly established themselves as a global powerhouse. Their early track record is just astounding. They captured their first South American championship in 1921. Then, in 1925, they went on this massive European tour, winning 16 of 19 matches. That proved right then and there that they could go toe-to-toe with the world's best. They grabbed an Olympic silver medal in 1928, and between 1921 and 1957, they absolutely dominated their home continent, bringing home 11 South American titles. They were, without a doubt, the undisputed early kings of the Americas.
But, the World Cup, that told a very different story. This era became their long winter. After losing the very first World Cup final to their old rivals Uruguay back in 1930, things kind of fell apart on the global stage. A first-round exit in 1934 was followed by this massive gap. Because of a mix of disputes with FIFA and political protectionism under various governments, Argentina literally just withdrew from consecutive World Cups between 1938 and 1954. When they finally returned to the world stage in Sweden in 1958, missing their top stars who'd been exported to European clubs, they suffered a disastrous 6-1 defeat to Czechoslovakia. The early kings had definitively lost their crown.
Which brings us to Act 2, the Twin Peaks of Glory.
So that first peak arrived in 1978. Now, Argentina hosted the World Cup during a highly controversial time. The country was functioning under a military dictatorship following the 1976 coup. So against this really dark and complex political backdrop, the host nation was under immense pressure to perform. But on the pitch, they somehow managed to achieve their greatest footballing success up to that point.
6. That is how many goals the hero of that tournament, striker Mario Kempes, racked up during the 1978 World Cup. His final 2 goals came in this incredibly tense, dramatic final against the Netherlands. Pushing the game into extra time amidst an absolute rain of white confetti in Buenos Aires, Kempes secured a 3-1 victory that cemented Argentina's first ever world title.
So the crucial point is how this era defined the nation's footballing identity. That 1978 win was masterminded by coach Cesar Luis Menotti, who was all about offensive, romantic football. But roll into the 1980s, and he's replaced by Carlos Bilardo. Bilardo implemented a highly pragmatic, defensive 3-5-2 system. These two wildly different eras, Menotti's romanticism versus Bilardo's pragmatism, they deeply divided Argentino purists. Yet, fascinatingly enough, both distinct philosophies resulted in World Cup victories.
And Bilardo's pragmatic system works so well because it was built entirely around one man's unmatched, pure genius, Diego Maradona. Just look at his dominance in the 1986 World Cup. Out of Argentina's 14 total team goals, Maradona scored 5 and assisted another 5. I mean, think about that.
He had a direct hand in the vast majority of their offense, playing at a level we had rarely seen before or since, practically single-handedly driving Argentina to their second World Cup title.
All right, let's move into Act 3, the curse and the catharsis.
Now, at first, the early 90s actually looked pretty bright. They won back-to-back Copa America titles in 91 and 93, but the real turning point hit in 1994, when a shocking failed drug test by Maradona sent the whole team spiraling right out of the World Cup. And guys, this triggered a massive, crippling trophy drought. Despite consistently fielding incredible talent, they suffered agonizing exits, like that absolutely heartbreaking penalty loss to Germany in the 2006 World Cup quarterfinals.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how painful this era was. It's hard to even overstate it. Imagine the crushing weight of 7 major tournament finals lost between 1995 and 2016. The Copa America in 2004, 2007, 2015, and 2016. And of course, the brutal extra-time loss to Germany in the 2014 World Cup final. You can truly feel this national curse just building and building with every single runner-up finish.
So what happens? It creates this massive psychological wall. Try to imagine carrying the impossible expectations of a football-obsessed nation, a nation that intellectualizes every single pass and reveres every myth, yet hadn't seen its senior team lift a trophy in almost 3 decades, 28 years. Fans and players alike genuinely began to wonder, would this agonizing drought ever actually end?
Well, the answer finally arrived, culminating in one defining number: 1. It represents the one final prize that had constantly eluded their modern talisman, Lionel Messi. After years and years of carrying the weight of the entire nation and suffering through those heartbreaking runner-up finishes, Messi finally captured his first World Cup, completely shattering the curse.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because that climax in 2022 was nothing short of legendary. In the final against France, Argentina looked completely in control, building a comfortable 2-0 lead. But then, pure chaos. France equalized in the dying minutes, forcing extra time. Both teams scored again in this breathless extra time period to draw 3-3. Finally, in a terribly tense penalty shootout, Argentina prevailed 4-2, ending their 36-year wait for their 3rd World Cup.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer magnitude of Lionel Messi's statistical dominance. When you look at the records up to mid-2026, he stands entirely alone. 199 national caps, 117 goals, 2 World Cup golden balls. He didn't just end the drought, he completely rewrote the record books of La Albiceleste, securing his own mythic status right up there alongside Maradona and Kempes.
And that brings us right back full circle to their historic haul. This perfectly caps off their status as the undisputed most successful men's national team in football history. 16 Copa Americas, 3 World Cups, 2 Finalissimas, alongside their Confederations and Pan American titles. 23 major trophies in total. It's a legacy forged in both dazzling brilliance and agonizing resilience.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. For a country that so intensely loves its theories and its myths, well, they have now fulfilled them all. They have experienced the absolute depths of sporting despair and the euphoric twin peaks of global glory. So, with their ghosts finally laid to rest, what era of history will Alba Celeste write next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it gave you a clear, structured look into this legendary team. Keep exploring, and I'll see you next time.